we'll do our best. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Two things I want to read into the record. One is the Board of Adjustment conflict statement, and it basically says the Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body. Therefore, the parties to this case are entitled to an impartial board. A board member may not participate in this hearing if he or she has a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest in the outcome of the matter, or a close relationship with a person affected by the outcome of the matter. This hearing is an evidentiary hearing. Therefore, the board's decision must be based on the evidence presented at the hearing, and any ex parte evidence given to board members prior to the hearing must be disclosed and cannot be considered. So I would ask the board members, before we get started, if there's any board member that has any known biases, conflicts of interest, or has received any ex parte communications, please disclose them now. Seeing none, the other point is the Board of Adjustment introduction statement. Hearings before the board are quasi-judicial in nature. Decisions of the board are based on the record of these proceedings. To grant a variance requires a concurrent vote of 4/5 of the members of the board. To reverse or modify the determination of an administrative official requires a majority vote of the board. Evidence submitted to the board for review becomes part of the record. Appeals of board decisions are to Superior Court and are based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of the filing of the board's order in the Planning Division. A hearing before the board is conducted in accordance with its rules of procedures. Those who want to testify in a case are sworn as witnesses. The chairperson recognizes those who want to testify or their attorneys for presentation of evidence during that hearing. To ensure that all testimony is properly recorded, please address the board, state your name and address, and speak clearly. Okay, the first order of business is approval of minutes from 3 concurrent meetings. So I guess the first order is, if there's no discussion, I need a motion to approve the minutes of April 15th, 2021.
So moved.
I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, that passes. The May 4th approval of minutes, same process. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor of the approval of those minutes?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Aye. Seeing no opposition, those minutes are approved. And lastly, the special meeting, actually third, the special meeting and, no, I'm reading this wrong, and the May 20th board meeting. Again, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seeing no opposition, the approval of the minutes were concluded there. That's all taken care of. First item, or let me ask the staff, is there any reason that you know of to reorder the agenda that we have? Okay, thank you. The first would then be under old business, and that's the address 320 Dawson Street. And we will,
Let me swear everybody in.
yeah, do you need to,
So everybody stand, citizens, staff, applicants, raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Citizens, you need to also get affirmed. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? Okay.
okay, great. Catherine?
Thank you, Chairman Pollack. The item before you is an appeal of a code enforcement officer's determination that work is being done at 320 Dawson Street without the required permits for the purpose of upfitting a prior nightclub use that has been vacant and discontinued for more than 180 days. On November 18th, 2020, the city clerk.
Excuse me, before you start, we've got 2 issues to be determined. One would be whether or not the appeal was timely. such that the Board of Adjustment would have subject matter jurisdiction, and we can hear information that addresses that issue. Is Attorney Johnson here? Okay, so we can hear from the city on that issue, and then we will hear from you on that issue. Do you understand? Okay, thank you so much.
So basically what you're saying is take each issue separately?
Well, the issue is whether or not the appeal was timely filed, because there's a 30-day requirement in section 18-27, 30 days from the date of the determination.
Okay.
Okay, so consider your dates. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. On that note, I'm not going to go through the case summary as we typically do. I will just start with the notice of violation that was issued and mailed on May 1st, 2020. And that was for failure to obtain permits for the renovation of the subject property. I spoke to the owner of that property on or about June 24th and informed them that the use of that property as the Starlight Lounge was no longer a grandfathered non-conforming use, and that if you wanted to get permits to renovate the structure, that it would need to be for some use that was permitted in the urban mixed-use district. City Code Section 18-144 allows for the continuance of legal non-conforming uses for a period of not more than 180 days. Once the owner was informed of that provision and his right to appeal staff's determination, he contacted an attorney, presumably because on September 9th, the attorney for the applicant contacted our city attorney's office for more information on submitting an appeal. On October 20th, 2020, the attorney for the applicant submitted an incomplete application for a variance for the use and an appeal on behalf of the property owner. Following a phone call informing the applicant that the application was not complete on or about October 20th, no additional information on the application or the application fee was submitted, and staff mailed back the application to the applicant's attorney on November 9th, 2020. On November 18th of 2020, which is 201 days by my count after the date of the notice of violation, the applicant submitted a letter with the required application fee, but with no supporting documents or narrative outlining the basis for the appeal. This item's been set for hearing several times before the Board of Adjustment and continued at the request of the applicant. And today the applicant is present to address any questions that you may have, and I'm happy to address questions you may have of staff.
Any board members have any questions? Okay, seeing no questions from the board, I guess if I understand the process. Now we open the evidentiary part of the hearing. No, we hear from the applicant first.
The applicant's
I'll get this
attorney,
right,
I think,
guys.
will speak to the 30-day requirement.
Yep. I'll get this right.
With respect to the 30-day requirement, I was not consulted about this matter until the fall of 2020. So the 30 days would have expired prior to Mr. Bryant's consulting me initially with respect to it. And when he initially consulted me with respect to it, it was his belief that because he had operated at that location for 12 years, that it was in fact grandfathered in. But as to your time limit question, I was not apprised of the matter until the fall of 2020.
Okay, perhaps the property owner can address why he delayed his appeal.
Mr. Brown. I will say that Mr. Bryant did represent to me that subsequent to his being cited, that he did go to request a permit on several occasions. Is that true, Mr. Bryant? Okay, could you address them with regard to that?
Yes, I went out there. They said I couldn't get no permit. At least they wouldn't give me one. But several times and tried. Then I thought I didn't need it because I was doing the work myself, replacing what was bad. I know I had to have a permit. I heard that I need one. At least I was told that. Not by y'all, but another carpenter said if you're doing your work yourself, you wouldn't have to need no permit. That's what I thought when I was doing it. until they told me I had to stop. I had to get a permit, and I ain't done nothing since then.
So you do not have a permit yet?
No, they wouldn't give me one.
Who is they?
Thank you. That was my question. Who is they?
Where did you go?
To the big
Went to the government center?
government center, I had to get one.
The inspections department,
Right. Yes, that's right.
they wouldn't give you a permit because of the ability to use that use anymore. What was their reason for not giving you a permit? Did you have proper drawings and all of that for your work, or what was the reason why they didn't issue you a permit?
They said I couldn't repair it no more because I couldn't have no club there.
Did they need another piece of information from the city for them to approve a permit?
One of the things, I went out there to get one, they said I couldn't get it because 180 days or something like that.
Because the use hadn't been used for 180 days.
Yeah, I done several times. I went out there several times to try.
Okay. What was the reason that that your club was closed down for 2 years?
Could I address that, please?
Yeah.
Mr. Bryant operated at that location from 2006 to 2018. The property was damaged in Hurricane Florence, but it also was uninsured. So he owned multiple properties in the city, so it did take him some time to begin making repairs. So the initial reason for the discontinuance was not voluntary, but because the property had been damaged in the hurricane.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question I don't know who it's for, but what is the definition, or is there a definition of a use being discontinued? So in this example, if improvements are damaged by a storm, if someone is working towards getting the improvements back up and running again, does that fall under the category of not being utilized for that purpose? We had a case like this several years ago, and a property went vacant, and it was a grandfathered use or something. But I remember as long as they were trying to rent it and market it and stuff like that, it didn't fall into that definition.
There would need to be evidence of that type of
Okay.
thing.
Well, the citation is evidence of that. He was cited because he was trying to make repairs. He was trying to make repairs at the time he was cited.
In 2020, correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
and
that's
again,
okay.
But what
isn't,
about the 2 years before?
Did you make any attempts to repair the property between 2018 and 2020? That's her question.
Yes, I tried.
So I guess we know the date of Florence. If you said it was closed because it was damaged by Florence, so we know that date. I'm sure someone here can look it up. So I guess there would need to be some type of evidence that between the date of Florence and 180 days, there was at least some degree of cleaning the property up or moving it towards the end result being get it up and running again.
Yes.
And if you can
address that?
provide evidence of that, that might be helpful.
What steps did you take? with
I was
respect-
cleaning it up, what the storm did.
What damage did the storm do?
Oh, it did, took my roof up and it's leaking in and messed the walls up and some of the floors.
And what steps did you take?
A step I take, I try to repair. If I finish the roof, I repaired my roof and some of the wall inside.
When did you make repairs to the roof?
I don't know exactly the date I did it. It was in a 20.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
I think he said he made repairs to the roof, but you said it was in
In 20,
2020?
yeah.
So if I understand what you just said, that based on the question the council asked, is from the time Florence hit, which is the fall of what, 18, something like that,
Yeah.
September 18, till sometime in 2020, if effectively, there was really no tangible attempt to repair anything in 2020 is when you started to make repairs. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Did you do any cleanup before 2020?
yes, yeah. 2019, I started before that, when the storm came. It was 2 storms there.
Yeah.
I was working on one, was finished, another one came right behind it.
Mr. Chair, may I be heard?
I'm sorry.
May I be heard?
Yes, you can.
For the record, Melissa Huffman, representing the city of Wilmington, while Attorney Dolores Williams is representing and advising the board on this matter. I object to this line of questioning. I think we're getting into an evidentiary hearing, and we have not yet answered the threshold question of whether the board has subject matter jurisdiction to even hear this appeal. I feel terrible for Mr. Bryant. You know, the storms were devastating, but that doesn't change the fact that the notice of violation was for failure to obtain a permit, not for appealing the determination that his use had been over 180 days, but for failure to obtain the permit, and that was done in May of 2020, and an appeal was not submitted until, I believe, November. So it would be the city's position that while we all definitely feel for Mr. Bryant and his circumstances, that the board does not have subject matter jurisdiction to hear any more evidence on this case as far as the substantive issues at hand.
Okay.
Question for you, if we don't have jurisdiction, what would the next step be for the applicant?
If you found that they lack jurisdiction, or excuse me, that you lack jurisdiction to hear their appeal, it would, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams.
No, that's okay.
It would be,
State your position.
it could be appealed to Superior Court, that your order, the board's order, could be appealed to Superior Court.
And I think one thing we need to clarify is what matter is before this board. When we look at the advertisement, it seems to be several things. And the letter from the attorney Johnson referenced a variance as well as an appeal, but didn't state what was being appealed, because there's 2 things in the staff report, and one is the notice of violation for doing construction activities without a permit, and the second thing is the fact that there was a staff determination by the zoning administrator, Catherine Thurston, that the Starlight Lounge could not continue at that location because it had been abandoned for more than 180 days. So perhaps Attorney Johnson, since she submitted the vague reference to the appeal, can tell us what is being appealed.
At the time, what was being appealed was the citation. And
You mean the notice of violation?
that is correct.
Okay.
And then I wasn't aware of the 180-day statement until your first packet came to me, because that was not, that I know of, told to Mr. I don't know that it was told to Mr. Bryant, but it was never conferred to me. When I began working in the case, it was based upon an understanding that he believed that he had operated at that location from 2006 to 2018, and that it would be grandfathered in because of that. When I read your packet, that is when I saw that you said that he had stated to you that he had discontinued use. He never stated to me that he had discontinued use. He had always represented to me that he discontinued use because the property was damaged in a hurricane, which I did not construe that as discontinuing use for 180 days until I read your packet, and that is why it is vague, as you said. Because it was not mentioned to me that. It was mentioned to me that he felt that it would be grandfathered in because he had used it. Now, his statement to me was that he only discontinued use because it was damaged in Hurricane Florence, and then it did incur some successive damage in the subsequent hurricane that came after Florence. Those were his statements to me.
Let me ask a clarifying question, because I realize that the issue on the table here, take all the extraneous conversation aside, is the 180 days and does that allow us to even hear this? My question is if he had at the time of the violation, and therefore at the time of the violation, had he come back in and said, wait a minute, here's a lot of what he's discussed here, would that have changed the city's position on the existence of a violation? I'm just curious.
Just to correct a statement I believe you just made, the issue's not the 180 days. The notice of violation was for doing work on the property without the permit, and you only have 30 days within which to appeal.
Got it. Okay.
So our position would not change when we are negotiating with an applicant regarding anything, variances, notices of violation.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and they have to get it in within that 30 days, even if it's going to be continued a number of times while we continue to negotiate with them.
You have to get the initial appeal.
Yes, sir.
of the
We can't, we
violation.
don't have the
Yeah.
authority to waive that.
I
The
got
city
it.
does not.
And that's the clarification I was looking for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Melissa.
And it appears here that we were 201 days out from the notice to the appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. So that the notification went out and then the first attempt to appeal it was how far into the future?
The package is 201 days, right?
From the time the notice of violation was issued to the time that the appeal was submitted was 201 days.
Was that the first time it was, we
It
read
was-
that an attempt was in there, an incomplete application was submitted.
So that probably would have been approximately 170 days
Okay.
following the
So that would
NOV.
have been the first attempt to appeal it, still well after.
Yes, sir.
So am I hearing and understanding correctly, so I can properly advise the board? Is the only issue before the board today the notice of violation on May 1st from Officer Roush that you were working on the property without a permit and that appeal? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So then there's no consideration of 180 days or anything like that at this point?
It's 30 days.
A city attorney, is that correct?
That's correct, because the appeal was not to the determination that the use had been discontinued for 180 days.
Yeah, the appeal was working without a permit.
Yes, sir.
And again, that's, as you just said a minute ago, it is what it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can delete part of this notice that went out.
When was he notified about the 180 days?
According to the staff report and her testimony, June 24th, 2020.
Well, that information is contained within the notice of violation that was sent May 1st, 2020.
Well, the issue before the board, as I see it, is the notice of violation was issued and it wasn't appealed within 30 days. If it wasn't appealed within 30 days, the Board of Adjustment has no jurisdiction over the matter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I think the facts are saying it was not appealed.
Well, given that we don't have jurisdiction, I don't see how we can proceed with hearing this case because, in my opinion, we don't have jurisdiction.
Tend to agree.
Do we have any evidence that that a building permit was applied for? Anytime during that period? You said several times he went and tried to submit a building for a building
No,
permit.
I couldn't even go without
Do we have any evidence of that?
He's saying that he never completed a form. He was just told that he could not have it.
So never went down and filled out a form, tried to apply for one and was denied. It was just never actually filed one.
No, they wouldn't give a application.
They wouldn't give you an application?
No.
I don't know why they wouldn't give you an application.
permit there.
He's asking.
Much of the county's permitting is done online nowadays, so.
But at that time,
That could
it was
be.
online as well.
Did you attempt to fill one out online or?
No, I went out there in person, and when they say I had to have a permit, I went out there to get one, and told my address, but they said you couldn't give me no permit.
You couldn't get a what?
Permit. I went out there. Matter of fact, I went there twice.
Do you know which dates you went out to try and get an application for a permit?
They wouldn't give me no one.
He said
No, the
okay,
question,
Oh, I don't know exactly the date.
From April.
Yeah.
Within 30 days, was it later?
Yeah, when I got a letter from them, they said I had to get a permit, I went out there. But the date, I can't remember the exact date it was.
Okay, you went out there and what did you ask for?
I told my, well, I wanted a permit, I said I got a letter that I had a permit to work on my building, because I was doing it myself, and said, you couldn't do it yourself. The work I was doing, they said I had to get a permit.
Okay, did you ask for an application to fill out so that you could get a permit?
No, because it ain't no.
Because you have to have you have to fill out an application. You can't just ask for a permit. You have to actually
But
fill
they
out an
didn't tell me
application.
that. They said I couldn't get a permit for that building.
are there any other questions of the applicants? So let me ask a process. We don't really need to go to an evidentiary hearing on this because this is just a matter for us to decide whether we even have jurisdiction, correct?
If you decide you have jurisdiction, you can move forward with the hearing. If you decide you do not have jurisdiction,
Then we
because
stop.
the
It stops right
the
here.
time, because of the failure of the timeliness of the appeal, then you do not go forward with the
Got it.
hearing.
So I guess I would ask the board, we've had a fairly healthy discussion. I would like to entertain motions on, do we proceed? Do we think we have jurisdiction? Or if we don't?
Can I make just one argument?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can I make one argument, and that argument would be this?
Would you, ma'am, I'm sorry, you need to get to the microphone.
Relative to the
Thank you.
timing of this, as far as the courts would be concerned, the courts were closed on March 16th of 2020, and that lawyers did not resume their legal work until June 1 of 2020 because of COVID-19. So we'd like you to take that into consideration too, when you calculate whether or not it was timely or untimely or whatever. So that's what I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to propose a motion that the Board of Adjustment does not have jurisdiction over this matter because the appeal was not filed within 30 days of the notice of violation.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. So we need to take a vote on that. All in favor of the motion that states that,
Before we go, can I ask a question?
question to whom?
The staff.
Okay.
What was the date of the notice of violation that they had 30 days to reply to appeal?
May 1st.
That was May 1st,
May 1st.
2020.
Were city offices open for 30 days thereafter?
Yes, we were open during that time. I have an email into the city clerk to confirm that that office was open because that's where appeals are submitted rather than to the courthouse.
But we know that the city offices were open for 30 days
We
after. the date.
continued operations. Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay. Again, we have a motion on the table that says the board does not have jurisdiction to move forward to hear this. All in favor of that?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing no opposition, the result of that is that the board doesn't feel it has jurisdiction to move further with this.
Thank you.
The appeal to Superior Court is available. There are other remedies.
Okay, the next item of business is concerning the address 104 Devonshire Lane.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So what we have here today is 104 Devonshire Lane. This is BADV-22-621. This is a 2021 aerial, so I do want to mention this is a current aerial of the property. The present zoning is R15, and this is a variance to the requirement that swimming pools be located behind the side facade of the principal structure on the street side of the structure. As you can see, to the northeast and west, this property is all zoned R15, and then the area here and around is actually unincorporated county. The subject property has no history before the Board of Adjustment. And so the subject property is part of an area annexed into the City of Wilmington limits effective September 30th, 2000, and is zoned R15. The subject property consists of approximately 0.44 of an acre and contains a single-family residence structure and a swimming pool. Pursuant to the Land Development Code Section 18-308, swimming pools shall be located in the side or rear yard. For a corner lot, a swimming pool shall not extend beyond the side facade of the principal structure on the street side of the structure. Swimming pools shall meet the side and rear yard setbacks in the district in which it is located, except in these residential districts, which include the R15, whereby a swimming pool must meet the setbacks of 10 feet from the rear property line and 10 feet from the side property line, or the minimum side requirement of the district in which it's located, whichever is less. As you can see here, the property is a corner lot with Devonshire Lane and Lansdowne Lane or Road. Yes, and I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly. A compliant swimming pool and pool equipment on the subject property would not extend beyond the side facade of the principal structure on the street side of the structure and would need to be placed at least 10 feet from the rear and side property lines. On or about April 14th, 2021, zoning officer Cynthia Rausch conducted a city zoning inspection of the subject property and determined that the owner did not have the proper building permits to build the pool. On or about April 21st, 2021, the applicant applied for an after-the-fact building permit. And then on April 29th, 2021, the applicant submitted a request for a variance to allow the swimming pool and pool equipment to remain beyond the side facade of the principal structure on the street side of the structure. This matter was set before the Board of Adjustment for June 17th, 2021. The Board of Adjustments in granting a variance shall find the following four findings of fact required by North Carolina General Statute 160D-705 and City Code Chapter 18, Land Development Code Section 29, powers and duties have been met by the applicant. Number one is that unnecessary hardships would result from the strict application of the ordinance. It is not necessary to demonstrate that in the absence of a variance, no reasonable use of the property can be made. Number two, that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as the size, location, or topography, and hardships resulting from the conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public may not be the basis for granting a variance. The hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. The actions of purchasing the property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of a variance shall not be regarded as self-created hardships. And finally, the request for a variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. I would like to ask that this case presentation and the packet be included in the record. Zoning officer Cindy is here as well to answer any questions, as well as the applicant. They have brought evidence as well, and I ask that that be submitted into the record as well. I do have a couple of pictures that I would like to go through just to kind of give you an idea of the property if you haven't seen it. Deborah? Just 1 minute. Did anybody have any questions while we look for the pictures?
So what, the street right there, where the two cars are parked, that's Devonshire?
This is Devonshire here.
Where? You
This
lost me.
is right here is the Lonsdale.
Where?
This is Lonsdale.
Lansdowne's at the bottom.
Yeah, and then that's Devonshire.
It's
Okay.
over on the left there.
Okay, so because this is a corner lot, you're saying this is extending into the side yard?
Correct. If this were, and they're going to pull up the pictures. Since it's a corner lot, it technically cannot extend beyond the side facade of the structure.
Can we go back to the pictures?
They're pulling up the correct images.
It is the pool equipment that extends beyond the side facade, is that right?
The pool equipment and the pool is my understanding. The applicants can speak to that as well. It's an above-ground pool.
The,
Okay, so we don't have the pictures. They're not on the PowerPoint, but if we could go back to the PowerPoint, please, and go back to the first image, I would appreciate that. Thank you. I do apologize for the technical difficulty.
Okay, go ahead and you want to show me again what streets we're talking about here?
Devonshire is this one right here.
Why do you keep flipping back and forth?
This is Devonshire.
Okay,
This road is,
Lansdowne.
yes, that is correct. And so technically, this is the side facade and it cannot extend beyond this.
Okay, so it would need to be in the rear,
Correct, or this non-street side.
right?
The applicant has a front door here now. They did extensive work, unfortunately without permits. The applicant has applied for the other permits, and so those are not in question. But like I said, we do have the applicant here. We are trying to get the pictures. So if you would like to hear from the applicant, I believe they have pictures as well. So if you
yeah,
guys.
but wait a minute, I have a couple questions. I want to make sure I understand the facts.
Absolutely.
So the property is part of an area, it was annexed September 30th of 2000, which says at that point it comes under all the
Correct.
applicable laws, rules, regulations, what have you.
Correct.
When was the pool built and when was the equipment installed? Was it after 2000?
Yes, sir. I believe the pool has been a new addition. Like I said, it was not showing in our 2019 aerials. It is now showing in our 2021. I would defer to the applicant, but I believe it was put in this year or 2020 of last year.
And at that point in time, obviously coming forward, there would have been a requirement, obviously, to meet the positional requirement.
That
and
is
also
correct.
to have permits.
That is correct.
And again, I want to make sure I understood, you said there were no permits?
That is correct. They applied for the permits after they received the notice of violation. Again, those dates are on or about April 14th. The zoning officer completed an inspection and then issued a notice of violation. The applicant came in and applied for a building permit on April 21st. And then, like I said, on the 29th of April, she applied for the variance.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions of Abby? Okay.
Thank you. If you guys want to go ahead and.
We just try planning development, BOA, PowerPoint, and that should be it. Can you just open it? I just want to make sure. I mean, she was.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Lewis. I'm the owner of 104 Devonshire Lane. I'm requesting a variance because my house was originally built as a garage apartment. The front of my house faced my neighbor at 106 Devonshire Lane because she was the owner of the property until 2019 when I purchased it. My property is adjacent to hers, and she built the house, and the entry of the garage and apartment faces her house for easy access in and out of the garage. So basically, she had 106 and 104 together. Now I use 104 Devonshire Lane as my primary residence. My backyard faces the back of my house, which is where my patio and the pool and my grill and that stuff is. The way the original owner built the structure is the backyard because the front faced her house and the side was where the garage was and the driveway is. The back side of the property facing my Lansdowne neighbor is narrow with abundance of trees, and there's an incline back there and an air conditioning unit. That would be the rear of my property. I cannot use the backyard the way my neighbors use their backyards because of the way the house was built originally. Now that it's a corner now that it's a house on a corner lot, my backyard is not zoned for a pool. I have a privacy fence that locks from the inside and a safety ladder that locks when not in use. And there's trees surrounding the whole backyard. And you can't see what is behind the privacy fence from Devonshire Road or Lansdowne Road. It's very safe and private. I'm requesting a variance from the zoning rule in this case due to the way the original owner built and placed the house on the property. And now it's causing me a hardship with the backyard. And I've just kind of went over the 4 points. The application of the ordinance is causing me unnecessary hardship where the backyard is because of how the structure was built in 2008 from the previous owner is the only place on the property that can be a backyard. And the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. My lot is a 44-acre corner lot that was built on 2008. Before that, it had always been extremely wooded, overgrown, with shrubs surrounded, deep ditch, Lansdowne Road, tree stumps, root systems, all kinds of stuff. And the back of my house never got developed because they just used the very front part of it facing their house. When the land was built on in 2008, that's what they cleared just the land closest to 106 Devonshire. The rest of the land stayed in complete disarray until I moved in and cleaned up the backyard area so it could be utilized. The hardship did not result from my actions. I did not build the property this way. I only purchased it in 2019, and now I'm trying to utilize the property the way it was built. But we need the backyard for a safe place for my family, to have family time, utilize our yard like our neighbors. And then the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. I've gone over and beyond to ensure the public and my family are safe. I've cleaned up lots of debris, rotted trees from the lot, made it neat and safe. I've built a 5-foot privacy fence around the prominent part of the backyard with safety locks that keep my family in and other people out. I've left the trees around the outside perimeter of the property for privacy, safety, and noise control. No one can see behind my privacy fence in either direction unless they were to come on my property, like the other neighbors with privacy fences in their backyards. And I also have a locking ladder for extra precautions to make sure the pool area is safe. The pictures that you're looking at, there's a picture there of 106 Devonshire Lane and 104 Devonshire Lane. There's only 25 feet between my house and the property line of 106 because they were built very close together. In the back of my house, from my property to my 405 Lansdowne neighbor, there's only 30 feet from where my pool's supposed to be. I've only got 30 feet back there. Plus I've got my air conditioning unit. Plus there's an incline there, and there's pictures of that as well. My fenced in area is 56 feet wide by 56 feet long. And then I have 24 feet of trees on the east side, the west side, and I have 40 feet of trees on my south side. So basically, my backyard, which is not zoned as a backyard, it's a side yard, is 109 feet long, and it's 104 feet wide, which is all my property. So the majority of my property is that lot that we utilize, and our family hangs out back there. I don't have anywhere else to put the pool, unless I were to sit it right on my house, or maybe take my steps out on one side of the house, or put it right beside the air conditioning. Then it would be right on top of my neighbors. I think it might be 10 feet. But anyway, as you can see, I'm just trying to utilize it because it's there. I brought the previous owner of 104 Devonshire Lane. She's the owner of 106 Devonshire Lane, and I purchased the property from her in 2019. Her name's Jerry Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm Jerry Jenkins. I live at 106. I purchased, of course, 106 in 72, and 82, we purchased 104. In 2008, 9, we decided that we had a lot of family and that we needed a secondary residence there. So it was for relatives upstairs, and of course, we had like a music room and some storage and a workshop also there in the bottom. We built it really close to our house, so we wouldn't have far to walk over there. So it is not in the middle of that lot. If it was in the middle of the lot, a normal house there would be facing Lansdowne Road, and the back would be behind it. We had that for a secondary residence, so we had it very close to 106. It is not anywhere near the middle of the lot. So the only land she has is the wooded area, which she has got her pool and all, and is totally fixed. It's very nice now. You can't see the pool from any direction. And from Lansdowne Road, there's nothing but trees. She left a lot of trees. So that's why I'm the one that created the hardship, because we had that as a secondary residence for 106. So when Suzanne took it over in 109, that's what happened, and that's why it's built like it is. So,
I drove out there and you cannot see the pool from Lansdowne or Devonshire. It's way up.
My question is probably more to the staff is, had the applicant applied for a permit to build this in the first place, would that pool be located differently? I mean, in other words, has she met the requirements of, even in absence of a permit, has she met the requirements of where the pool should be built?
She has not met the requirements because it is beyond the side facade of the house on the street side. If she had pulled the building permit, zoning staff would have asked for a resubmission to show that that pool is not extending beyond the side facade of the house on the street side.
Which I could move the pool like closer to the back on that side. So I've got a lot of land over there, but I can't put it like behind the very back because of the way the house was built, there's no room. But I could put it further in the back corner on that back side. I could move it. They had said that I could, basically, when I applied for the permit, they kicked it out for zoning. And I had no idea this even existed. I just thought it was my backyard. It was always my backyard. And that's like the best part of my house, is that big yard. But I didn't know it even existed. So, and we actually put the pool up with COVID for my little girl. And then we were replacing the liner and stuff because it was leaking. And I had no idea. But I did apply for a permit, and I apologize. But I would have requested a variance either way, because that's the most logical place for a pool because of my circumstances. And the setback is okay now because we're adding a carport And so now the setback is, the front of the house is going to be 17 feet up. It's going to be 17 feet forward. So the setback, that fixed the setback because that's going to be connected to the house.
I'm going to ask the obvious question. Do you have a permit for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But the nice lady came and she, with the carport. And that's how she saw the pool, because nobody would have ever seen the pool because it's behind the fence. But so I applied for the necessary permits. And I've also got a structural engineer that I hired almost 2 months ago. He's come out, took a bunch of pictures, and he's been doing my drawings and stuff. They're very slow, but he's already in the process to where if I went to hire somebody else at this point, I'd like to let him finish so that I can go ahead and get everything right. So but I do have started a permit for the carport as well. Yes, sir.
I had to ask.
Yes, sir. I understand. I've learned my lesson. Never again.
So we've established that the pool, even as it sits, had she applied for a permit, would have to sit some.
I would have had to have asked for a variance. Yes, sir. Because I don't have
She
anywhere
could have
else.
applied for a variance at that time.
Yes,
She
sir.
could have applied for a variance
That is
at that
correct.
time before she built it.
obtained the permit initially, she could have applied for variance pool where it's currently.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like we're, yeah, I'm not going to say that. Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant? Do we have anybody that's,
Is anybody here to speak for this case?
okay, then I will open and close the evidentiary side of the hearing and go straight to the board. I mean, kind of like to hear from my peers, their thoughts here.
I mean, I think this is an unusual piece of property because of where the house is sited. I don't think that would be the normal location for the home to be sited. I think it does create a large amount of area fronting on Lansdowne. It's, that structure is set back significantly than the house that's adjacent to it on Lansdowne. There's enough vegetation there, I think, to screen it. I think it sort of meets the findings of fact because of the unusual location of the house and how difficult it would be to put a pool in the rear yard, if you were to call it the rear yard, since the address does front on Devonshire. So I would make a motion to approve the variance.
A second?
May I, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Nope.
Would you accept an addition?
Additional condition?
Addition to the motion. I mean, if we.
Well, what's what is it?
It would be that we also should make recognition that in the spirit of things, the inspector did do the right job in bringing this forward that says, this is not right, this is not right. And I just, I don't want anybody to think that,
Yeah, no, I think the staff did what they were supposed to do. They identified a violation and the applicant made the application in a timely manner. And I think obviously the conditions of this lot are unique.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to grant the variance, and we have a motion and we have a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing no opposition, the variance is granted.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is 410 South 6th Street.
Good afternoon, Chairman, board members. Craig Harris, Associate Planner with the City of Wilmington. I'll be presenting the next two cases, two addresses. We do have the same applicant for each of these next variances. First one will be for address 410 South 6th Street. On May 5th, 2021, planning staff accepted an application for a variance to the lot width requirement of 33 feet in R3 residential district of a new proposed subdivision. Present zoning is R3. Approximate size of the lot is 10,890 square feet or 0.25 acres. Existing land use, single-family residential. The surrounding land use and zoning to the north, single-family residential, actually to the north, south, east, and west, it's single-family residential. To the north, the use is, it borders HDR, historic district residential, in R3, to the south, R3, east, R3, and to the west, HDR. Subject property has no history before the Board of Adjustments. Subject property located at 410 South 6th Street is comprised of one parcel zoned R3 Central City Residential District. Subject property is located within the original corporate limits of Wilmington established in 1945. Subject property contains a single-family residence and an accessory structure. The lot is approximately 66 feet wide by 165 feet deep and contains approximately 10,890 square feet, or again, 0.25 acres. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 410 South 6th Street into 2 lots. See if I can get that image up here. There you go. The proposed plan submitted by Bob Jones, professional land surveyor. One lot would be approximately 34.4 feet, 42 feet in width. The other would be approximately 31.58 feet in width. Section 18182 of the City of Wilmington's Land Development Code requires all new subdivided lots in an R3 district to have a minimum lot width of 33 feet. Applicant has submitted a variance of 3 feet to the width requirement for a new lot approximately 30 feet in width. Applicant states that the lot is oversized compared to the other neighbor lots, and that a lot of 30 to 33 feet in width is found in many lots on the same street. This matter is set for hearing before the Board of Adjustments on June 17th, 2021. In findings of facts, the Board of Adjustments in granting a variance shall find that the following 4 findings of fact required by North Carolina General Statute 160D-705 and City Code Chapter 18, Land Development Code Section 18-29, powers and duties have been met by the applicant. Number 1, unnecessary hardship will result from the strict application of the ordinance. It shall not be necessary to demonstrate that in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. Number 2, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public may not be the basis for granting a variance. Number 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. The act of purchasing property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of a variance shall not be regarded as a self-created hardship. And number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that the public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. I ask this presentation, the case summary and attachments be added into record. I'd be glad to answer any questions at this time.
Go ahead, Patrick.
If the minimum lot width is 33 feet and this lot is 66, is there a reason that it can't be put in a 2 33-foot lots?
It's the location of the house that is presently there. They have no plans of demolishing that house.
Okay, so the house is there going to stay. Okay.
And that's the one that's currently being, I mean, I went by the other day, that's the one that's currently, what are you, gutting it or?
That's the yellow house.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
But the house is going to stay. It's just being renovated.
That is correct. The applicant can give us more detail on their process on that.
Yeah. I have one question. You mentioned earlier that, you know, when you started, this one and the case after us is by the same applicant. Is there any implied relationship between these 2 cases? Or are these both standalone?
Oh, they are standalone. It's really coincidental that in working through the process, they realized that they could do it at the same time. And I wanted to have a little consistency and took both cases so they had one point of contact, nothing more.
Well, I ask only because of that, the fact that one's right around the corner.
They are, but yeah,
It's purely coincidental.
each separate, yes.
Okay, that's fair. Any other questions for Mr. Harris?
Is there a site plan that shows the lot as it would be subdivided?
I believe what we're looking at is the the plan. I just don't see,
I don't see any
The house
sites, I
sitting-
don't see
I
any
just see the lot
setback, I don't see any
division.
lot lines or setbacks or anything showing where that new structure would sit.
they can address that.
Any other questions for Mr. Harris? Okay, then we'll hear from the applicant.
Hey, Kyle Kelsey with Source Contracting Solutions and owner of 410 South 6th Street.
Tyler Broughton, Source Contracting, on behalf of Revitalize ILM.
Okay. So who's going to speak?
I will address so this, what we're looking at here, what you can see, I know it's hard to make out up there, but the lot line that you're seeing coming from the front left corner of the house to the street is the subdivision of that property. So it looks tighter than what it is. Oh, let's see. This line here would just be splitting these properties.
And does does it extend all the way to the back of the property?
Yes, sir, it does. So that's what we need to address here, that I'm sorry, it doesn't clearly portray that, but this line would go back to that property.
So it goes from the street all the way to the rear of the property?
Correct.
So you're going to be so the lot line is not going to be on the side of the house, the existing house?
There would still be a setback. It's hard to see just the way it's laid out here, but there would still be a side setback from the house to it would be.
To the lot line?
Sir?
To the lot line.
2.5 feet, correct?
2.5 feet.
That's a conforming setback.
Yes, sir.
2.5 feet is the conforming setback for that zoning?
Yes, sir.
Easy for me to say. 6th Street is at the bottom of this drawing, right?
This is 6th Street.
Okay, so I'm just trying to visualize. I got the yellow house that's there that you're rehabbing,
Yes, sir.
and the goal is to put a single-family house in the backside of this lot?
I can address that. So we have not picked a plan. We haven't picked a house to build yet because we wanted to see if we could do it with you guys first. So we could either put the house on the side or we could put a house in the back, depending on, what you guys approved us for.
Where I'm going with this, where I'm going with this is how, in your mind, how does the person access from 6th Street, house in the back? How would that happen?
Yeah, so it would be the same way they access 410 currently. You have a walkway pathway here from the street to there. It'd be on-street parking here, same way. So if it was in the back, obviously we would add a driveway that went through here to the house. But again, that's subsequent to what you guys approve here before we get into spending money on design plans and stuff like that. Because then obviously there would be other questions to address at that point, depending on location of the house.
So where in relation to this lot, are there other lots that are 30 feet wide or less?
You could find them on the same block. 408 and right next door, 408 and 406. Yeah, so we would have to confirm this, but I believe this lot is a vacant lot, 408, and then the lot right next door is 406. I believe both of these lots are under 33 feet. We'd have to confirm that, but there's multiples in that same area, whether it's that block or the Nunn and 6th block. So this block here. Because like these two houses here, I believe are less as well. That's 515 Nunn and 519, I believe.
So if you were to do the 30-foot lot and you applied the setbacks, what was your intent as far as putting a house the size of a house, the width of a house?
Yeah, we were, what we've been discussing is around a 24-foot house, side to side.
Yeah, because I think the pattern of development over there is houses fronted on the street. So to put one in the back, to me, would be out of character with the neighborhood. So if I were to approve a subdivision like this, I would want to put a stipulation on that it match the pattern of development in the neighborhood.
I think we would be okay with the condition of it being in the front. It still allows.
Yeah, it would sort of match up with the houses fronting on the street as far as the setback from the street.
May I ask a question?
You can.
Is this property within the historic district that it would have to go before HPC?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Right outside of it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
By the skin of your teeth. Saved you a lot of trouble.
So, actually to that question, so the entire lot is outside the HPC?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right around the corner we have 3 lots inside the HPC. So
Got it. Okay.
we're still dealing with it.
Melissa has a great question. Okay. Anybody else? Questions of the applicants?
I would like to note, I don't know if this is important to the information, but the way it is, I think, good to note that the way that the house sits on the lot now is kind of non-congruent with the houses you see on the lot, because it's kind of offset to the right, as opposed to all the houses on the street are center lot. So doing this subdivision kind of allows you to create that for both of the houses.
I kind of agree with Mark that I would like to see the house towards the front.
Yeah.
More conforming with the streetscape.
Well, then I guess, so seeing no other questions from, of the applicants, Deborah, is there anybody here to testify? Okay, then at this point, let me open the evidentiary part of the hearing. And if there's anybody here to speak. Well, wait till you get to the podium.
Hi, my name is Michael Summy, and I live across the street from all this. So I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going on. From what I understand from this is that you're looking to subdivide it the long way. And then if that were approved, then you would put a drive back into the.
I believe to answer that, you guys are saying it would be better if we put the house in the front. So that's what we would do, is we would put the house in the front to conform with the rest of the street.
You would put the house on 6th Street
Yes, sir. Yes,
next to the yellow house?
yes, sir.
So there would be room to fit that in there. You would subdivide the lot differently then, because you're talking about subdividing it this way. Now you'd be, if you have that.
So from the yellow house at 410 South 6th Street to the edge of the property line, we have 31 and a half feet. So what we are proposing is that they give us 30 feet here, and then we build a narrower house on the new lot.
So the houses would be side by side then?
Side by side, yes, sir.
Okay. What I was kind of concerned about is we've got a lot of on-street parking there, and you're going to put another house in. Are you going to be able to provide off-street parking for that? When you have a new development, new house, don't you have to provide, I think, 2 parking places off-street for each bedroom you have, or 1 for each bedroom?
Yeah, so I think this is I'm not an expert on this certain situation, but I think this might be unique to the case of it being in the 1945 zoning district. Potentially, we might have to look into that. I'm not sure if there's a minimum requirement in regards to that. maybe somebody else could speak on that.
Can staff answer that question?
Just for clarity, I was dead. Today, being an R3, if you brought that house to the street, they would still have to have off-street parking. We have proposed in the new land development code, this is proposed, it has not been approved, but we've proposed that there will be no minimum parking in the 1945. But today, they would have to meet parking, off-street parking requirements based on how many rooms are in the house.
So they need to hold off on, should we grant the variance? Right now, they could not build a house there without off-street parking, is that correct? You may as well just stand there.
I feel like I should sing a song. Remember, their initial proposal actually took into parking. It's been, proposed by the board members that, would not look congruent to the neighbors. So they came ready to tackle the parking. A condition could be, if you're going to put it on the street, you could consider also granting a variance to the off-street parking because you're requiring them to be at the front. Otherwise, they would have to wait to see if this gets approved and then become effective.
Well, they didn't request a variance for off-street parking.
They did not.
So, I mean, if we approve the variance as requested to subdivide the lot right now, it couldn't be built on without providing for off-street parking. So they would need to wait until it went through the land development code. Is that correct?
With your proposed condition that it come to the street as opposed to what they brought to us, which has off-street parking. That has it.
And an alternative is they could ask for a variance and it be advertised and heard at a later date from the off-street parking requirement.
So that would have to be a separate
It
variance
would.
application.
I've checked with staff and the way that this matter was advertised, and it does not contemplate a parking variance, and there may be public that would be interested in that issue.
That's what I mean.
Mhm.
I guess as brought today, proposed with the building structure in the back, you guys are saying that you would not allow the subdivision with the house being built further back to allow for the off-street parking.
Well, I think pushing it to the back really makes it, it's not congruous with the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, it doesn't look, it would fit, like Mark says, in with the character of the neighborhood much more closely if it were in front of the lot on 6th Street.
Okay. I think also, I don't necessarily know how far back we would have to go, but I don't know how this plays into zoning as well. I think there was some code restricting backing up out of a parking space, but a driveway necessarily wouldn't, the house wouldn't have to be set all the way in the back, I guess is what I'm getting at, to have a driveway there. It could maybe split the difference. I think there's other options there maybe to explore.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. Can we put the aerial up on the screen? There's a house directly across the street that, I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit. So directly across the street where the words South 6th Street are on the road, across where the ST are,
Right there.
right there. Is that off-street parking? I mean, is that what that is?
Yeah, they do have off-street parking. They have 2 parking places. That's next door to my place.
Is that in front of that?
Yeah.
So that presents a house that's a little closer to the street, kind of,
Right.
Similar with what's going on in the streetscape. It might be a good idea. Allow the board to have input in that if they so choose.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that doesn't really fit in with the pattern of development there to have off-street parking in the front of the structure. That's probably a unique amongst the streetscape.
There's a few along South 6th Street. I'm pretty familiar with South 6th Street and I've had properties down there before. So I'm familiar with that stretch, and there's a lot of houses that don't have off-street parking, or they don't have off-street parking. So that's why there are a lot of vehicles that park on the street. But There are a few that have little courtyard parking areas right in front of the house, and that's,
So there are some.
there's a handful of them. I wouldn't say it's completely.
There's two on that block that we're talking.
And then a few even further down, up and down South Sixth Street as well.
Craig, did you say new construction now would require off-street parking?
Right, commensurate with the bedrooms.
Sir, what's parking like on the street? Is off-street parking a challenge? When you come home, is it tough to find a parking spot on the street?
Yeah, it gets pretty crowded out there with a lot of different people parking out on the streets.
So I guess my question would be, if you were to put two off-street parkings in the front of that house, wouldn't that take some of the street parking away?
Yeah, that would.
So you're kind of defeating
That
the
would
purpose.
definitely be good if you could do some off-street parking.
Well, I was thinking if you
Well,
put,
it-
if
it
you put
wouldn't.
up,
Right now, nobody's been living in that house for, well, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years, I guess. So there hasn't been anybody parking that owns that house, that lives there. So this would essentially be adding two houses with off-street parking, which we don't, really need an extra quantity of cars out there on the road.
right, I guess my comment was that if you create a parking lot in front of the house for two spaces, you're essentially taking away an on-street parking space in order to provide an off-street parking space.
Well, there's a little drive there right now.
I can comment on that. So the drive that's there now is it's very small. It's around 5 feet of the curb that's already cut. So what we would need to do is we would probably need to cut another 5 to 10 feet. So I think your point is still valid. I think you still lose about one spot to create two off-street. So I think, yes, your point is valid, yeah.
Any other questions of the applicants?
Chairman Pollock, you still have a citizen that is up there.
Any other questions of the other gentleman? Okay. All right, then I think this closes the evidentiary piece, and then we're back to board discussion.
I would say for me, like I said, I'm familiar with that area pretty well, and I've battled the parking situation quite a bit in the past. It's just kind of the name of the game in that area. So whether they do put, a couple of parking spaces in front of the house and eat up some of the on-street parking or not, I don't think we're really accomplishing anything by making that an additional requirement. Obviously, they would, if they come back to build, though, before any changes to the land development code, they would have to ask for another variance.
Yeah. But right now, the only variance discussion on the table is the 3 feet.
And I think that 3 feet's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
Building a 24-foot wide from side to side house, I could see that being okay in that neighborhood. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to do something here?
I would make a motion to grant the variance to the side or to the lot width to allow the creation of a 30-foot lot with the condition that the house be located in relationship to the, I don't know whether we say average, setback from the front along that streetscape. Yeah, or you could use the existing home that's on the lot.
So Mark, the motion is to allow the variance with the stipulation of the house that that after they renovate the one and propose the other one, is that it comes up again, effectively, next to the house and consistent with the way the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see, you can see the pattern of setback along the street. It sort of varies a little bit as it goes down the street. So I don't know if it has to completely align with the the house that's existing on the lot, but I think it needs to, be within an average of the setbacks along the street.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion on the motion?
Do we need to be any more specific than that from the setback from the street for this?
I think we
I think
use
it's-
that, don't we use that terminology in the land development code about average of the setbacks along the streetscape?
Craig can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it's if more than 50% of the homes along the same side of the street on the same block don't comply with the minimum required setbacks, then any new structures can, their new minimum setback would be whatever is typical of the block face. So yes, 50%.
I think we could use, something like that as language.
So again, what does it say? It's, you approve the variance with.
With
Catherine,
whatever the
with
current
whatever she
language is
said.
in the- Yeah.
I would say it differently than
You say, yeah, you can
I give
phrase
you the
it
actual
however you
language.
want.
I'll second your motion, Mark, then, if that's the case.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no opposition, the variance passes with the stipulation. Thank you, gentlemen. And the next item of business is right around the corner, 516 Nunn Street.
So close, we messed up my Google. I had to get to the next one. I don't want to walk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it keeps wanting you to walk. And it says you're walking too fast.
I'm sorry, Craig, go ahead.
Based on our conversation, I think this is going to be very similar. This is addressing the parking that we spoke about. But Chairman Pollock, board members, again, Craig Harris with the City of Wilmington, Associate Planner. This case is for 516 Nunn Street. On May 5th, 2021, planning staff accepted an application for a variance to the off-street parking requirement for proposed single-family residence in the HDR Historic District Residential. Present zoning of this property is HDR Historic District Residential. The lot size is approximately 3,465 square feet or 0.07 acres. Existing land use is single-family residential. The surrounding land uses and zoning to the north, south, east, and west is single-family residential for land use. The zoning to the north is HDR, and also to the east and west, and to the south, it's R3. Subject property has no history before the Board of Adjustments. Subject property located at 516 Nunn Street is comprised of one parcel that is zoned HTR, Historic District Residential. Subject property is located within the original corporate limits of Wilmington established in 1945. The lot is currently vacant and measures 52.5 feet wide by 66 feet deep, containing approximately 3,465 square feet. Applicant is proposing to build a single-family residence, which will be required to obtain a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission, in addition to meeting other requirements set forth in Land Development Code. Section 18-532 of the City of Wilmington Land Development Code requires parcels built for residential use must provide off-street parking commensurate with a number of bedrooms. As an example, a two-bedroom house would require 2 off-street parking spaces. Section 18-529C4A of the City of Wilmington's Land Development Code states a standard parking space shall have a minimum width of 8.5 feet and a minimum length of 18 feet for a combined square feet of 153. Applicant has requested a variance to the off-street parking requirement and has proposed on-street parking only. Applicant states that the lot is uniquely small compared to other lots in the area and desire to build a home that is congruent to other houses in the historic district. Providing off-street parking will further limit the buildable area of this lot, limiting the applicant's ability to construct a house in scale with the neighboring properties. This matter is set for hearing before the Board of Adjustments on June 17th, 2021. Findings of fact, the Board of Adjustment in granting a variance shall find that the following 4 findings of fact required by North Carolina General Statute 160D-705 and City Code Chapter 18 Land Development Code Section 18-29 powers and duties have been met by the applicant. Unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. It shall not be necessary to demonstrate in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. Number 2, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public may not be the basis for granting a variance. Number 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. The act of purchasing property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of a variance shall not be regarded as a self-created hardship. And number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. I'm just going to point out the property and its width compared to other properties as you look down there. I asked that this presentation attachments be added into the record, and I'd be glad to answer any questions at this time. Do you want to mention again that in the proposed draft code, underlying draft, has been proposed that the parking requirement, minimum parking requirement for any property in the 1945 would be eliminated. There would not be a minimum.
For a minimum off-street.
Correct.
Okay.
So approving this variance would allow us to proceed prior to the proposed land development code changes.
Actually having a little trouble hearing. I'm not sure if your mic's on.
What he said was so proceeding with this variance would allow them to eliminate the off-street parking before the ordinance is modified.
Correct.
Or land development code. Does the staff see that this is consistent with the new land development code requirement?
As proposed, yes.
Is that undergoing some hearings in the future now?
Yes.
Let me refine the question. Is that undergoing hearings now or proposed in the future, or yes to both?
The process on the land development code has taken many years to get to this point, but a draft, was initially put out in April and has had, many comments that come through. It's been reorganized, based on some of those additions. A new version came out, I believe, June 10th, and is being presented, and there is hearings next week.
Is that the reason for all the yard signs throughout the city?
Yes, sir.
The ones that you can't read.
Correct.
And I can help answer that a little bit. We had a preliminary meeting today. It was a joint meeting between City Council and Planning Commission. Next Thursday, there will be a public hearing. And we have a number of other meetings and public hearings planned through August on the Land Development Code in its totality.
Do they have is there like a date on the calendar that says we plan to be done by, or is it just evolving over? When do they want to be done?
August 17th.
August 17th, okay. Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Harris?
Real quick, just as this relates to the prior case, our variance does not provide off-street parking on that lot. So they would need to request another variance or wait until the land development code passed.
We were talking about the prior case.
Yes.
If they are not able to make parking fit based on the conditions that you just granted, yes, sir.
Do we know how many on that particular block on Nunn Street of the other structures? Do we know how many of them do not have off-street parking?
Actually, they've got some data on that.
Okay. Any other questions for Craig? Okay, then I'd like to hear from the applicants, please.
For record, Kyle Kelsey, representing Revitalize ILM, owner of 516 Nunn Street. What is he? Okay, so we got a PowerPoint just outlining. There's a couple points I guess I want to bring to light here in this situation. I guess first and foremost, a couple of things that we kind of want to avoid in doing this is this tree right here in the right of way. We would have to explore the option of removing that tree if we were to put a driveway in there, which we would like. And we've heard from neighbors on the street who would also like to preserve this tree. Second, this granite curbing that is here, I know it's in the historic interest to try and keep as much of that as possible, which we would like to do as well. Third, I don't know, am I able to flip through these? So I want to note Nunn Street is a particularly large street compared, and I'll go through these to get to this and then we can come back. Okay, so Nunn Street here is kind of a unique street in itself when it comes to, in regards to off-street parking. I think Nunn Street is 64 feet, 67, okay, look, we have it here. So Nunn Street is 67.6 feet from side to side. In the historic meeting that we had multiple neighbors speak and said that off-street parking is not necessarily an issue on this street. One, because of the lower traffic coming down Nunn Street. Two, because of the width of the actual street. So just to note that. Then the third is there's multiple, well, let's see if I can start at the first one and go through these. Okay, so here is Nunn Street, looking just down the street. And then these are multiple houses that are on the actual street that are non-conforming without off-street parking. We could just go through these. There's,
So the predominant pattern along the street is on-street parking.
So, yes, sir. So these three lots right here, these all are non-conforming. They all have on-street parking. This lot here, this gentleman also owns this lot, which is a vacant lot, which he uses his driveway here. So he has off-street parking, but this particular property is non-conforming to the verbiage. Also, this property here, same story, no driveway. This is just, I just took photos of the fronts of the house just so you could kind of get an idea of where we're at here. This is I believe this is a quadplex or a 5-unit residential building. This is on the corner of 5th and Nunn. And there is no off-street parking at this location. You know, so they have 4 different dwellings in this one building. This is a block away on 5th Avenue. These two right here do not have off-street. This 421 here has an easement with the church right here. So this dwelling technically has off-street, the easement. Let's see, this is just, okay, so this is the width of the right-of-way from sidewalk to sidewalk. This is the street that we're talking about here. The same street, this is Nunn Street. So if you turn the corner, and this is the last case, this is 6th Street that we were talking about. The right-of-way is 3 foot less here. So you can kind of see it's tighter. And then here's another one that we found. 6th and Church Street gets even tighter. It's 54 feet. And I guess our point here was just to show that Nunn Street is, I guess I can't say above average, but it is above, it's wider is what I can say. Yeah, it's wider than a lot of these streets. That's it.
And I would like to note here that the goal is not to build these without providing parking. We also own 512 and 514. We have gotten approval, or we're working with building houses there as well. And we are going to provide off-street parking for both of those houses. But in order to do that, we are going to have to use a shared driveway for between 512 and 514. So I just.
There you go.
So how many do we have here? We ready to go?
I don't think so. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
And we need how many?
That's 3. 5.
So Veronica, how many do we need for a quorum now?
8. There's Eris.
There she is.
You're on mute.
How's everybody doing? Thank you for taking a minute to catch me up.
We're still waiting for a quorum.
Okay.
So Eris, while we're waiting, Eris,
Yes.
since I can see it and got you on the line, I called and left a message for you, but there's a guy that is opening an office downtown that wanted to talk to you, wanted to know some, city related things and people to get in contact with. So I told him it'd be a good idea if you and I and he sat down together next week. So I just left you a voicemail, but let me know what your availability is, like maybe Monday or Tuesday if you have some time.
Monday, I had a text message that I had started to you, but I never got to hit send. Monday, I'm available from 11 to 2.
Okay, all right, great.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'll see what works out with him and I'll send you an invite then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that number 8 there with Tom? Yeah. So we have a quorum. Do I get a confirmation of a quorum? Veronica, you counting?
You're on mute, Veronica.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. We need 8. Tom is 7.
Oh, okay. I thought we had 7. All right.
We have 7, but we need 8.
I mean, before Tom came, I thought we had 7.
Oh, no, it was 6.
I think, Jim, you could start the meeting and we could go to old business item number 1 and do our reports. And then if we get a quorum, come back and approve the minutes and deal with the election of officers.
Well, that's true. We have a lot to get done, so might as well then. Well, I will, I guess I won't call us to order. I'll just go to, no, I don't see anyone here who's from the public who's gonna talk. So we'll go right to old business then. Is there more than the fire hydrant painting project on there?
Actually, there's 2 things. I've got another thing that came up since that, and it's not really an item that y'all would take action on. It really is a report back to you. So I have 2 items that would have been under old business, but one got added after the agenda was put together. I did want to circle back though to Jim's question about the fire hydrants. The request for the $3,000 to paint the fire hydrants it was budgeted in, it was asked to be budgeted from the MSD simply because the painting schedule is every 11 years that you were aware of, Jim, that was made when I guess the utility and somebody took over the maintenance. So was scheduled for all fire hydrants to be painted on an 11-year rotation. And we felt like 11 years was too long for the MSD and in the Central Business District. So this painting would be at a closer interval than every 11 years.
Well, the question was who pays for it, right? Wasn't it?
Right. In the budget for painting, the normal budget for painting the fire hydrants, it is programmed that every fire hydrant gets painted every 11 years.
By whom? Who does it?
Who, I think it comes out of your utility funds or whoever is in charge of that. I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's not going to be MSD then.
No, what they were asking for is for the MSD to pay for the painting at a shorter interval than every 11 years.
Okay, so the agreement that I remembered is for someone else to paint it every 11 years.
Right.
So someone who we don't know came along and said, let's let MSD or go ahead and paint it quicker because they're starting to look bad. Is that the idea?
Right. It's just not, they don't look as well. So they were thinking that this was a way to beautify downtown by painting them on a shorter interval than every 11 years.
Uh-huh.
And I think that request came up by the fire department, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh. Okay.
Can I say something?
We have a quorum. Sorry.
Nope, that's good.
Yes, speak. Yes. What's up?
Okay, it's my understanding that we cannot replace city services, that we can only enhance them. Would that be enhancing
It is.
services? Okay.
Yes,
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Because you're going to get painted twice as at a interval that is not at every 11 years.
So they painted every 11 years and we painted every 11 years and it's painted every 5.5 years.
Right.
Okay. So we're all squared away on that then. There's a full understanding. Okay. So what's the other item you have?
The other item was a circle back. I've been in contact with the public operations that are going to be putting in the plexi pave at the places that it is acceptable. They've done the test sites down on South Front Street. Those places that are in the historic district are going to have approval by the HPC, and I'm working on putting together a map of what needs to be approved for that. But we are in the process of getting that project put together. I know it's been a long time, but it's actually, they're asking me now which trees do they need to go do. So I feel like we're at a much closer point than we've ever been with this. So I just wanted to give you an update on where we got to with that. So I'm putting together a map of what needs to be approved in the HPC to present to the HPC for those trees that were originally on your areas that you wanted addressed.
Okay, anybody have any questions about that? Since we have a quorum, that's the end, that's all you have for old
Yeah, we
business?
need to take action on the fire hydrants though, Jim.
Oh, we do need to vote on that. All right. So
Harris,
we need
can I speak on the plexi pave before we get on the hydrants? So the historic has to approve the plexi pave. The city can't override it. What if they say no?
Well, the hope is that, I guess if they say no, we have to deal with that. But I'm going to present it to them based on the sample areas that we've done and see what they say. If they say no, we may have to go to some other areas to treat that were not originally on where y'all said y'all wanted to be treated.
What is the plan for the ones that cannot do the plexi pave? Is there any beautification of any kind? So people don't get hurt or anything going on? Discussion?
Not yet.
Okay.
Was all the plexi going to be put in the historic district? We don't need their permission from Princess Street to Walnut.
Yeah, so in the areas, Nancy, that's not in the historic, I've already told them to proceed and lay out the project plan, keep moving. The only ones we've got to kind of slow down on is the ones that I've got to get before HPC. I did not want to go before HPC before because I didn't want it to expire, and I did not want it to, I wanted to make sure that we were good to get this done.
The color scheme, is that our only choice, I guess, at this point?
I have asked them if they could get a green in, and they're working. They told me they would let me know, but I did ask that of the contractor.
Okay.
Any other comments on the tree wells? And so we're back now to the fire hydrants and the money to paint them in 5.5 years. We have a motion to approve. John?
John?
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. There we go. Just spent that. We don't even have an amount for that, do we?
It was $3,000.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're back now, since we have a quorum, to the minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
There's Tom standing by. Good. A second?
I'll second
it.
Okay, any discussion? I just looking at here before the meeting, the alley survey was completed, and you were going to do a report in 2 weeks. Is that going to happen today?
No, I'm meeting with the alley contractor on Friday, so I should have something by your next meeting.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
All right, that passes. So we're through old business, now down to new business, election of officers. You're going to need a new chairman. And I guess we confirm, what other officers do we have besides a
You have a chair and a vice chair.
That's it.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait for a nomination. Does anybody have anybody they want to nominate for a chair?
Let's nominate someone who's not here today. You know how that goes?
Yeah, well, Clark.
There you go. Well, so I'm assuming that means that Jim is stepping off?
Yes. I asked to not be nominated. What is it? Reappointed.
Reappointed.
So I've got other fish to fry.
I understand.
So we have it. Are you Nancy? Are you nominating Clark, or do you want to?
He'd be a natural since he's the vice chair. Is he going to be on again? Is his term up yet? Or has he got another 2 or 3 years to serve?
I got, there's about 3 or 4 names that came to me that were being reappointed. Eris, do you know if Clark was one of them?
I didn't think Clark was up for appointment yet.
Okay, well, maybe he's not. So we'll assume that he will be reappointed if he's up for it. So we have you are nominating
Yes.
Clark. Does anybody have anyone else they want to nominate for chair? Don't hear any more nominations. How about, I guess we'll vote for both at the same time. So now we need to move somebody up to vice chair. Does anybody want to nominate, or I guess does anybody want to put their name in to be nominated?
I'll volunteer if nobody else wants to do it.
Who said that?
That Tom Davis.
Tom? Okay, good. Well, I'll nominate Tom.
Thanks, Jim.
On my way out. All right. Any other nominations for vice chair? All right. That leaves us with Clark Hitt being nominated for chair and Tom Davis for vice chair. I guess we just go straight to a vote. All in favor of the slate of those two? I guess there's a way you can raise your hand here, isn't there, on this Zoom? There we go, shared reactions. I guess not. I guess
There is a way to raise your hand. You have to, can you see the participants?
yeah, share. Yeah.
I think we've all raised our hands.
Yeah, we're all good.
Now, on this, Ray has his hand raised.
All right, so I guess the best way is for anyone who is against it, speak up. Otherwise, we're unanimous. Okay. So that the nomination for Clark as chairman and Tom as vice chair have been approved. Congratulations, Tom. I don't know whether Clark is going to be happy or not. I think he was willing back when I got appointed or elected to. Okay, so that brings us down to.
Clark has only quit 3 or 4 times, so I'm sure he'll want to do it. Yeah, no problem.
We're down to reports. First one is the police, and Stephanie's here. Or maybe not, her picture's here.
There I
There
am.
she is.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good. Do you have a report for us?
I do. We're having a problem with a lot of B&E autos breaking into automobiles, mostly in parking lots and parking decks. A lot of them are happening in the outskirts, so not like Front Street and Market area. It's more like I think there was over one on St. Mary's Catholic Church, up near North 4th Street area. And most of those, 90% of them were unlocked cars. So we just need to make sure that people are locking their cars because they're going to be targets. The suspects that were given, we've got one suspect that we've got a picture of, but not enough to identify, was a thin black male. And then another witness observed a white male. So it's not just one person. It might be multiple people breaking into cars, just crimes of opportunity. We've had about 116 reports from May to, I think I ran all of it on Monday. So it includes part of June. It's not just May, but I've found about 116 reports that were taken. And again, most of them were these B&E autos. Larcenies are up. Those are bicycles. Not a lot of retail theft, just crimes of opportunity again. I think there were some tools on a site, tools in the bed of a truck, bicycles, packages. Our assaults are going up. Most of those had to do with bar closing time frame. So alcohol involved assaults. The rest of them are pretty much domestics. And that was kind of 50-50 down the line. So no major issues that I'm really seeing other than these break-ins, and we're trying to get the people involved identified. So if you do see somebody that's pulling on door handles, if you will call in. And also, one of the things that we have identified is periodically check your door locks, because what is happening is that 3 of your 4 doors may lock, and you may have an issue with the 4th door, and you may not realize it. So periodically, you may want to check to make sure that when you're using your auto door locks, that it's all 4 doors are locking, because you're going to hear it, but for some reason, one of the doors is not locking. So just keep that in mind. That was something that another officer told me. One of the break-ins that's what was happening, was one of the doors was not locking when they used the auto door lock. My last update that I wanted to share with you is just with all of the issues with, what is law enforcement doing to better serve their community. We're in the process of, if we haven't completed it, is going through our fair and impartial training for officers, and this is all officers, and it talks about implicit bias, which is biases that are developed that we may not be aware of in our experiences as law enforcement officers. I'm one of the instructors, so I did one of the classes. So that has been implemented. Officers are going through it. It's really good training. And it just identifies, for safety reasons, we don't want to count out certain people as not dangerous, and we don't want to be hyper vigilant on other types of people as dangerous. And that's the basis of the training. It includes, just dehumanizing people, which can be very easy when you're dealing with the same thing over and over again. We've got a lot of overdoses that are happening around the city, and we just want to make sure that our officers are not creating some kind of bias with drug addicts just out of frustration, dealing with the same people overdosing over and over again. And then we also have our homeless population. We don't want to get into a bias having to deal with them over and over again. So it's just kind of teaching our officers to be aware of what can cause biases just from experiences that we have in law enforcement dealing with the same people over and over again. So that's one training that we're going through. Another training that we're implementing, which has started with our upper staff, like I went through it as a lieutenant. It should be implemented throughout the rest of the department. It's called ABLE. And what that does is it is teaching our officers to let them know that it's okay to step in when they see somebody. Officers do get frustrated, and it's allowing officers to know that it's okay for them to step in and say, hey, let me talk to them for a little while, you step back. There are times, officers will get frustrated trying to talk to somebody because there's an argument going on, and sometimes that officer just needs a break. That way it doesn't escalate into something else. I think overall Wilmington does a good job policing our community, but again, we can always do things that will help us serve our community even better. So I just want to kind of update you on those 2 trainings that we had. I know that that was kind of one of the talking points for lowercase leader. I think they wanted better training for us as far as like biases and that. And I think these 2 programs are going to be an added asset to our department and just make us better. I think, if you go with the George Floyd with the 2 new officers, they were trying to step up. But it's one of those things where you've got a senior officer. It's kind of hard to push that, that thought forward, especially when they're not listening. And we're trying to teach our officers that that's okay and that it's expected. Any questions?
Anybody have a question for Stephanie? I got a quick one, Stephanie. I've noticed that the gathering place at the county parking deck on 3rd Street,
yes,
doesn't have anybody there, hasn't for about a week or so. What caused that?
I think the county, I know that they have asked us to move people along just because of the trash issue. So I think that's part of it. I think now we can, they're trespassing people, so that's a positive as well for those that are not adhering to rules, either, littering, drinking, or fighting. So I think that's a change. I think WDI had a part in that because I asked them to contact the county after one of their ambassadors was assaulted, because that's a county property. It's not city, so it's it kind of ties Wilmington PD's hands as far as dealing with issues over there. But I think that outreach kind of helped them realize that yes, there is an issue out there. And again, as public areas, we've got to balance people's rights to be in a public space, against nuisance behavior. And I think, I think we've come to an area where there's a compromise between the two, addressing the issues and moving those people along that are causing problems.
That's a good thing, for sure.
Yes. Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Stephanie?
I do. Thank you for the positive report on training. That's really good to hear. You might know I live on the south side. I think we've emailed a few times. And this was in the news a little bit, but Tuesday afternoon, my husband was running errands, middle of the day, and around Castle and 15th and 16th, he was impacted by that shooting. I think the paper referred to it as juvenile shooting.
Right.
Maybe while driving. He said that there were wrecked cars related to this in an absolutely massive area, up Castle and down 17th and everywhere. And I was wondering if you could share any information on arrest or what might have caused that.
I don't have a lot of information on that. I know that I think there was like a dispute between juveniles, which caused that. Anytime that, and I think it was like 2 cars involved. So anytime you've got 2 cars could cause other wrecks, especially if one car is trying to get away from the other or one car is trying to catch up to the other. I can try to get that information. We were so short that I was actually handling calls in other areas because they had responded to that. So I wasn't actually on scene. So I don't have a lot of information as far as that incident, but I can definitely look it up. Is there somebody I can email that to and get that information out?
I would appreciate it. Elizabeth_Wright at Yahoo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Yep.
Hey,
now,
Lieutenant.
Yes.
Go ahead.
What kind of plans do we have for 4th of July? Do you have extra sheriffs coming?
We've got
National Guard.
No, this is going to be a positive 4th of July.
Yeah.
This is going to be positive. We're going to have so much fun. I mean,
Oh yeah. No,
else
it
can we
is.
do?
It's going to be great.
And we're going to have the parks opening on 4th of July and
Yep.
concerts and fireworks. It's on a Sunday, even though Monday
So
may be the
Just a massive amount of people
holiday.
downtown, I think.
I know, having a good time.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
we'll have plenty of officers covering both.
Okay.
All right.
All right, is that it for Stephanie? All right, we're now down to WDI. Holly, are you going to give us a report?
I am. So first of all, kind of related to Riverfront Park, because Stephanie jogged my memory on this. I want to say thank you to Eris for putting together WDI and Amy Beatty from the city and getting us to start the conversation. I know, we're all scrambling to try to figure out what's going to happen whenever everybody's having a great time at that park and how to make sure that the MSD ambassadors are providing that enhanced level of service, but not being overwhelmed, since they do have a 70 block radius to cover that, with just 4 or 5 folks that they don't get overwhelmed, but we do manage to, pick up and enhance and make that area great for all the people that are coming to the park. We're very excited about it. I think that first July 16th through the 18th widespread panic is going to be something for the city that like we've never seen before. So anyway, Eris, thank you for doing that. And my report, I have 2 or 3 things. First of all, our microloan program is going great guns. We have just closed, and Tom knows this because he's the treasurer for WDI. We just closed yesterday our 5th microloan since March 29th when we opened the program. So, in just 2 months, we've managed to close 5 loans. I feel like we're better than a bank in that way. We're closing them in an average of about 2 weeks turnaround time for new businesses that are, kind of coming and applying for these funds. And they don't have to be a new business, but it can be a business, coming out of the pandemic or what have you, that just needs a little boost, that needs, $20,000, whether that's to survive or expand or locate. So we have 3 more actually that have applied, that are in the hopper. So we have a total in that fund that I may have mentioned before. The total was $568,000. So we've got $100,000 out now to businesses, which is great. And we're going to keep going. So if there's any, any folks that you hear of that are looking for $20,000, we're at 3/4 prime, which is that 2.44% fixed rate for 5 years, no repayments for the first 6 months. It's been a very popular program with our businesses. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done with the microloan program. And then I will say on a positive note as well that we're getting ready to hold our 7th ribbon cutting of the year. So given the fact that we had COVID, still to deal with for the first few months, that we're coming out of things and we're starting to really see that places open up and we're getting more demand for new business space. It's hard, to find storefront, to find space now in downtown, which is a good problem to have. So very positive time for us. Going back to the homeless issues that Lieutenant Boucher was speaking of, we did reach out to the county and the city elected officials to talk about, how best to deal with the problems that were going on. Not the problems of the homeless folks themselves. So I feel like that was a little bit misinterpreted perhaps in the press. It's not the folks, it's just the aggression. And whenever, our ambassadors, and I'm sure you all feel the same way, they're here to keep downtown clean and safe for everyone. And so we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and that there aren't any incidents like there were when our ambassador, poor David Poppy, he's been assaulted twice now, same guy, by homeless folks in the last 30 days. So we are trying to, do what we can to kind of mitigate that, open up the conversations. I think that has helped a lot. I spoke, as did James Slay, who's our, MSD operations manager. We both were guest speakers, if you will, for the Homeless Coalition of Care meeting on May 27th. And so we're really trying to keep those conversations going, find out how to get people the help they need, get them into coordinated entry system and try to get them, some social service help, which obviously that's not the role of the MSD or the ambassadors, but it is our role to try to make sure that people, get services. And we're trying to make sure that we connect people. And then we had a follow-up meeting on June 9th, specifically between, and that was fantastic, is organized by Tafana Bradley, who's doing a great job, Assistant County Manager Tafana Bradley. She's really kind of taking the lead because she's over the Health and Human Services part for the county's perspective on that Project Grace block, that 3rd Street block, and around the library. The library has a new social worker on board, which I think is a fantastic idea, to make sure that people that are in and around the library that need help are getting that help, and that she's talking with them, and there's some outreach going on. So I think overall, we're making some very positive changes. It's not something you can turn around overnight and fix. It's a long-term problem, but I think there's been very good headway. We also, at the meeting on June 7th, the folks were there, Randy Evans, who does a lot of the feeding programs for the homeless folks. And, I said, we'd like to do whatever we can to help. I said, the MSD would be happy to, provide assistance and, be up there. We want to help. We don't want all of the mess. It would be great if we could kind of coordinate the days that you're going to be clean, doing the feedings, if we had a schedule of that in advance. So they did provide that schedule, which we've passed on to the ambassadors, so that my hope is that the folks that are coming out there to do the feeding programs, that they could stay just a little. And, I said, if they're going to be here for 2 hours, handing out food, it'd be great if they could stay for an hour afterward. We'll provide bags, we'll provide, trash receptacles, whatever they need, and support, if there's more to do afterwards. But we need some cleaning along with the feeding. And so they were very receptive to that. I think things are improving, and that's a good thing. Next, I would say overall, economy downtown is, it's popping. It's really exciting, I think, now to see things after COVID. We've got this week, I've had 2 meetings with large project developers that are interested in doing projects downtown. So, I think we're seeing some real office people coming back to the office. So both are office projects. And we're going to continue to see, I hope, more resurgence in the office market coming back. And then lastly, I would say, the last note I had was on Project Grace itself. We did a tour of the project on June 2nd for Cape Fear Realtors, for the commercial folks that are with Cape Fear Realtors. And the end of the month, the way Project Grace schedule-wise now is set up, as you know, in March, the county, they approved the MOU. So now the project's moving forward at the end of this month. So that's just next week. The discovery period will be over, where they've been coordinating with the Cape Fear Museum and the library and the Children's Museum to try to get everybody on board for, what's going where and how the project's going to shape up. That'll be finished, and the design work will begin in July. So schedule now is design begins in July. Summer 22, so next summer, a year from now, should be starting construction if all goes well. I mean, a lot of things can happen between now and then, but that's the plan for now. And then that would be about an 18 to 24 month construction period for the block. So turnover would be in 2024. So while that sounds like it's a long time from now, as Tom knows, and Jim, and anyone that's in development knows, it takes a while to get these things done. So I feel really good about the momentum behind Project Grace now, and happy to answer questions about that or anything else. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Holly?
I have one question. Thank you for the report, and this might be my ignorance. The hours worked, it showed a surplus of 70 hours over the total authorized allotment. How is that budgeted? Is it overtime rate?
No, it is not overtime rates. It's made up for time for like last month that they didn't have as many. It's been because James was actually down a couple of ambassadors, then he staffed back up. He's been low for the last few months on hours. So we haven't had any net, budgetary impacts. We knew that there's going to be more hours because the hanging baskets. So I can tell you those over hours, that's hanging baskets. The putting all those things up, watering them, taking care of them. We're going to see through these summer months more hours as they have to dedicate time to that. That's above and beyond.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else? Well, we're down to the city report. Eris, do you have anything else?
Just a few things real quick, Jim. One, the city budget, I think, passed this week, so we got that behind us. I appreciate your patience with us as we are going through this meeting location issue. We can't get in City Hall right now in Thalian Hall because it's under construction. So because it's under construction, we only have very limited places that we can have in-person and hybrid meetings, like what we're trying to do now. So the construction at Thalian is scheduled to be done by August. So we will have, our next meeting will have to be virtual because we just don't have a location that we can do both otherwise without a conflict with another meeting. I think it's been mentioned before, the park will be opening 4th of July weekend. That's exciting for what's happening downtown. I know that's been a long time coming, as well as we have, I don't know if you followed the budget or followed conversations, but we do have quite a bit of renovation work that's going on at the convention center. And that is something that hopefully believe it or not, convention business is picking back up. And I hope that the businesses downtown are feeling it. But we are looking to do some improvements to the convention center to make it much more of a destination spot. So we're working on that. Of course, we still have some other construction projects going on downtown, but hopefully they will be coming to a close very soon. I've been trying to get a schedule for everything, and it's moving targets everywhere right now. But that's all of my report for this meeting, Jim.
All right, we are at the end of our agenda, and there's only one item left, and that is adjournment. Does anyone?
Jim,
Yes.
So 1 second, Eris, and you may, this may be one of those things that is a moving target, but I was actually asked today about two things. A schedule for North Front Street, which we know, thankfully, it's delayed now till January for the start. Do you know, what is the length of time to that project? Do you know what the, January to what? What's the best guess, do you know?
I'm not sure, Holly. I'll have to get with engineering and find out what their time frame was, but I will email that to you.
So that was question one. And then question two was, when is Water Street going to be over? the construction down there. So I know that's the $1 million question, but do you have any feel for the businesses that are down there when they're going to see some relief?
We're hoping by the fall. Because you got two projects going on. You got one on the end of the loft, then you got one in front of Water Street Center.
The Water Street Center that's right in the middle is the one that they were specifically asking about, but I know everybody as a whole, and everybody knows that they're growing pains, but whenever it drags on for a year or two, they just people just start to worry about what's next.
I understand.
What about Bijou Park? You still have the signs up saying coming soon. Do you have any idea there?
Bijou, I know they signed the contract for it, but I'm not sure what the schedule is. But I can put together if you want me to, I can put together a schedule as what we have right now and just send it out to you guys. Is that okay?
That'd be great.
Okay.
What about the alley across from Bijou Park too?
The Vance Alley?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the group I'm meeting with on Friday.
Okay, great.
Okay, anything else before we adjourn?
How about a motion to adjourn?
You make a motion, all right. Bill, anybody,
Second.
How about a second? We got
Second.
that, all in favor?
Aye.
Who's
All right,
second,
then.
Tom?
Yep, I seconded it.
Bye, Jim.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Jim.
Bye, Jim. Nice job. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm out. Boom.
Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.
Bye.